Hello and welcome. My name's David Tait. I'm the CEO of the World Gold Council, and joining me today is Randy Smallwood, the President and CEO of Wheaton Precious Metals. We're going to have a conversation about both his business and my own, and I think I'll start by asking Randy one of my questions here. It's when I joined this business, I knew very little about streaming, but while the World Gold Council has been around for 35 years, precious metals streaming has only been in the industry for about half that time, I understand. Why do you think streaming has taken off like it has, so that it's now viewed as an integral part of the mining finance?
Well, first off, David, thanks for taking the time to interview me, and a real pleasure to be on the screen with you. I wish we were doing it face to face. Yeah, streaming. I think it was about 2004 was when we started. So I guess that's about 16 years now, 17 years. It's growing substantially. When we first started streaming, I don't think even we recognized how much value it would have, but it just delivers so much value on so many fronts to partners. It's kind of like a joint venture, but it doesn't have any of the burdens of a joint venture, and it always dramatically improves the internal rate of return of projects. Normally it's for a non-core byproduct, so it allows the copper mine to purify its own end product by selling off some non-core precious metals product. And of course, it gives investors great opportunities at a much lower risk profile to invest into these good, and typically if you're going into copper mines, good long life, high quality assets that have years and years of reserves in front of them. And so there's no doubt streaming has definitely made its place in. I think just by our activity level over the last couple of years here, it's really sort of highlighted why streaming is going to be a continued source of mining finance.
Given the success of the streaming model, and we've seen a number of new entrants come into this space, can you talk about the competitive landscape and why Wheaton has continued to be so successful, and perhaps what probably differentiates Wheaton from other streaming and royalty companies?
Well, first off, our portfolio, we are focused on precious metals. More than 97% of our production and our revenue comes from precious metals. And so that's a real key differentiator between us and so many of our peers. A lot of them have iron ore and oil and gas and base metal exposure. For us, the only non-precious metals we have is a little bit of cobalt streaming from the Voisey's Bay mine in Newfoundland. And so I wouldn't even call that a base metal. It's more of a specialty metal, and it's doing very well for us. The other aspect that I think we differentiate ourselves from is of course the long life. We've got over 30 years of reserves in front of us, and another over 10 years of measured and indicated resources, and close to 20 years of inferred resources. And so you add that all up, probably one of the longest life, highest quality. Most of our production does come from the bottom half of the respective cost curves, and so by far I would say long life, highest quality production. But I think the other side of it is that we've got a real strong focus on making sure that our partners are stronger. It's an overlying mantra in our company where we believe that the stronger our partners are, the stronger we are. So we owe it to all of our stakeholders, including our shareholders, our partners, and our neighbors, to do everything we can to help our partners be successful, because then all the stakeholders benefit. And so, we led the way with respect to streaming and royalty companies coming into and investing into CSR funding and focus on ESG. We just recently committed to going to net zero with our scope 3 emissions, which means taking care of our share of the emissions from some of these sites. And so we've made that commitment. And we constantly do focus on working with our partners to try and unlock value. And given that, I just think that we're a partner that companies like working with. And if you look back at our recent transactions, what we've really seen is a lot of repeat customers, people coming back because they enjoyed working with Wheaton the first time, and they've come back to help finance their growth again, and knowing that they can work with us.
Yeah, Wheaton surpassed I think 10 billion mark in total streaming investments since inception. But over the last year, what do you think the highlights of the last financial year were to you?
Well, and really, I'd sort of broadened it out to about the last year and a half. We've added 8 new assets into our portfolio with either expanded streams or new streams, nine different streams on 8 different assets into our portfolio, which is more than half of everything. And then when you consider the number of other companies in the space, it's quite clear that we're having great success in adding growth. And so, we just recently outlined our own growth profile. Currently, this year, we'll be producing somewhere around 730,000 gold equivalent ounces, but we're on a path over the next 5 years to be up over 900, well over 900,000 ounces of production per year. And so good, strong growth profile. It's just it's a good, strong model that, when I summarize the success we've had over the last year, has really sort of delivered a good growth profile over the next while, and a number of opportunities. These are single asset companies. We definitely have a niche that we've unlocked in terms of companies that are developing mines, and we seem to have an excellent track record in terms of being able to deliver what they want. And again, I highlight the effort that we put in on the ESG front in terms of trying to help our partners, on technical ambassadors, on decarbonization efforts. These are all things that help us, be successful when it comes to competitive environments to keep on growing our company. And so, a real committed focus to high quality precious metals production with low risks. And so, it's one of the biggest advantages of the streaming model is that we deliver that. But I can't underscore the importance of a strong commitment towards the environment, the ESG commitments. And obviously my involvement, David, you and I have done a lot of work together in the World Gold Council over the last couple of years, and we've got some really exciting things moving in that direction. One of the things that really stands out for me is the responsible gold mining principles, which are being embraced around the world, even beyond our own membership. We're having companies that are embracing this as standards that are well established and define what good quality gold production can be made like. So maybe it's time for me to turn the table and ask you a question about the World Gold Council and some of the efforts on that front.
Sure. Just one more, if you don't mind. I'd be fascinated to know. You mentioned your carbon work. You recently announced a commitment to net zero by 2050. And in the context of your performance last year, which was great, do you think that your commitment to 2050 and the efforts that you'll have to implement, the actions you'll have to implement, will have any effect on your returns going forward? And we all deem it as ultimately very, very necessary, but do you see it as having any impact?
Well, of course, it's going to have a cost in terms of moving down this path, but it's a cost that's required. It's a cost that's necessary. And I do think that in the end, here's what I've seen. One of the biggest challenges that we do have in the mining industry is the fact that the bulk of our carbon loading from the mining industry comes from where do we source our power from. So, if we can come up with renewable energy sources to help supply mines, and one of the huge opportunities that we have at Wheaton is the fact that we tend to fund new mine construction. And so, one of the biggest challenges in terms of how you build your infrastructure is that once the infrastructure is in place, to change it is quite expensive. However, if you're building a new mine, and the bulk of our more recent transactions are all funding brand new mine construction, if you're funding a new mine, you can help those partners make better decisions. Do we stick in wind turbines? Do we stick in solar farms? Do we investigate run-of-river hydroelectric opportunities where we can do this? And quite often, those sources of power, they have higher capital costs up front. And of course, capital is a big challenge in the mining industry. The amount of capital that has to be invested before you see any revenue, any cash flow back from these mines is sometimes a roadblock to these mines moving forward. And so capital efficiencies are very, very, a big factor. But in the long run, typically when you have those type of systems in place and you electrify a mining operation, your maintenance costs and your operating costs are going to drop. And so I think we're actually to the point now with society where with the knowledge that we have about battery technology, the clear benefits on the maintenance side and the reliability side that'll all improve overall operating costs. I actually do think that these are investments that will make sense on the balance sheet, not just the dollar balance sheet, but the carbon balance sheet, where we will actually deliver win-win back to society. And so we as an industry, we have to do this. This is something, there's only one planet that we have to work on here. And so we have to do everything we can to try and move down this path and try and leave less of a footprint while we're still delivering all the benefits to society that they need. And I mean, we are just one company. Again, the World Gold Council, of course, represents the gold mining industry and does it very well, and is pushing these same standards, or pushing our promoting these standards to all of our membership going forward. And so yeah, I put it back to you now, David.
That's right.
Tell us a bit about what you're doing.
I think trying to change an industry and get an industry to understand the benefits of thinking ahead, of thinking bigger, trying to grow the pie, grow participation, and appeal to a much broader investor base is very much what the World Gold Council has been focusing on over the last 2 years specifically, and trying to change 3 or 4 fundamental issues in the market that we consider, and I know you do too, utterly critical, making gold completely accessible to everybody, literally everybody on the planet, through any means necessary, contemporary or otherwise. Secondly, making these markets completely fungible, and back to capital again, reducing the capital burdens that people encounter when they want to invest in these markets, or even just simply use gold. And the third thing is, of course, gold bullion integrity, and solving the bedrock problem of this industry, which is trust. We've come an awful long way over the last year, I would say, not without its troubles, but we've come a long way to introducing a rock to ring database for all gold, working alongside the LBMA to make sure that every single person on the planet has access to a database where they can check the provenance, integrity, and chain of custody of every piece of gold that comes into the system. If you couple that technology with a front-to-back perfect gold security system, gold bar integrity security system, you could have, and I think you will have, a ring-fenced ecosystem of gold that will be indisputably, immutably perfect for the very first time in history, and something that we're extremely proud of.
Yeah, some great progress. I know the recent announcement there was pretty well received in terms of bringing in some blockchain technology that an open source blockchain that allows the industry, the entire industry, working with the LBMA and working with the other members of the industry, the refining, the banks, the traders, to try and bring those standards up, definitely is going to deliver overall improvements to the industry, just because of that higher level of trust that in the end the consumers and the investors want to have with respect to the gold that they're investing into. That seems like it's all part of a broader package. I know you've talked about the Gold 247 or 24/7 initiative. That seems like a pretty integral part. It's almost the foundation of where we could go. What do you see coming next?
Well, I do think, and I think foundation stone or cornerstone are foundations of the industry really is the integrity issue. I do think that there are many technologies coming down the pipe, including tokenization of the asset class at an institutional level, that will make gold incredibly easy to use and make it almost like a brand new dollar. I do use the phrase gold's big bang could be upon us, when it's suddenly regarded like a brand new currency. Of course, if we do not solve the provenance and integrity issue first, any tokenized gold will remain compromised. And that's perhaps non-ideal is an understatement of the year. So that's why we've been working so incredibly hard to get this over the line and try and get as many people onto this system as we possibly can. And what I think has been incredibly encouraging has been the willingness and almost euphoric commitment to it in certain quarters of the globe, of people who want to be on this system and have been calling for a system like this for many, many years. These are not just the members of the LBMA's contingent of this market, but also far broader: China, India, Germany, Italy, the United States, every single person was largely online at the announcement yesterday, which I think shows the commitment to it, and also shows, I think, a breadth of understanding as to how necessary it is in order to grow this market, because it won't grow if we continue to carry around these legacy and I would say sometimes nefarious issues. We have the ability to extinguish them. All it takes is commitment and buy-in from everybody across the globe. And so far, the conversations that myself and Ruth Clow, the CEO of LBMA, have had around the globe shows incredible commitment. So I'm very excited. I think this is a necessary, hugely necessary step. I think people are going to be almost embarrassed not to be on the system at some point, and I think it will ultimately cost them not to be. But I think we have a very exciting prospect ahead of us. Not only will tokens become transferable between individuals, but at an institutional level, I do think we're opening the doors to a huge body of demand that is hitherto people have not been aware of. I think when institutions realize they have a brand new piece of collateral in their hands, which is far more usable than it ever was in the past, I think we're underestimating the demand impact of that, which I think is great.
Sounds like perhaps I would almost call it the first true stable coin in terms of having that kind of confidence behind it. And you know, definitely from what I see in the world right now, plenty of appetite for something like that. And in fact, I would broaden that all out to say it sounds like we're successfully bringing gold into the 21st century. And so some pretty exciting developments. You know, one of the other aspects of the 21st century, of course, is sustainability and a real focus on that. You know, the responsible gold mining principles, the responsible gold investment principles, these are standards that have been developed by the World Gold Council, and as I mentioned, well embraced. Any updates or key developments along that front?
Well, the RGMPs are something couple that we would like to couple with the RGGs, the Responsible Gold Guidance, which applies to refiners, and that's the LBMA standards. Those two sets of standards that a lot of work went into by both organizations need to handshake. And I think at a fundamental level needs to run through all mine-produced gold. If you conform to the RGMPs, that should be the baseline standard, and that should give enough people around the world comfort in that the gold they own has been responsibly sourced and complies and ticks every single possible ESG box that you can imagine. So I think we're on great ground there. The RGMPs are obviously reviewed relatively regularly, as are the RGGs. But I think it's something that institutions and investors can rely on. At an RGIP level, Responsible Gold Investment Principles and Guidance level, we're continuing to expand that around the world. As you may know, it started in India, and we have developed self-regulatory organizations in India now, Germany, Italy, and now we're developing across the entire United States. This was an infrastructure that literally was not there. And when you think of the amount of gold that flows through both China, India, and all these countries at a retail level, we had 50% of people not trusting gold, 60% not even understanding it, and I think 25 to 30% of people not trusting the institutions from which they were wanting to buy gold. That needed to change. Just imagine reducing those statistics I just mentioned by 50%. Think of the uplift in demand. So a very positive. It was a brainwave back in 2019, and it's taken off like wildfire. Have we needed to force the market to adopt this? Absolutely not. I think that's the telling point. They've absorbed it. They've been demanding it, much like they have the Gold Bullion Integrity Program. People have been demanding that. It just hasn't appeared before now, and that's what's so important. The last thing is the fact that there's no point having these standards and no point having either RGMPs or RGIPs without the populations, either retail population or institutional population, knowing they exist. So the WGC plans to spend funds to make sure people understand that these standards exist and they are something they can lean on and rely on. Rather silly if we didn't go and tell people after all this work.
David, fantastic work. I can tell you as chair of the World Gold Council, I really have been impressed at the progress made over the last year and a half by you and the management team. You guys have done some very exciting things, some real progress in terms of not only standards, but also, how do we trade gold? How do we have access to gold? And, I don't know if you've got any finishing comments on the World Gold Council side.
Yeah, I think the team have come a very long way over the course of the last 3 years. I think we're very focused on our three core pillars: sales, research, marketing, standards, government policy, and market structure. And the recent work that we've just discussed is an extension of that third pillar. But I think the entire World Gold Council is on this journey with us. I think they understand the significance. And I think it's very nice to be part of something global. We are planning and are changing the world. And I think they and I are very proud of what we're doing.
Well, David, I can tell you that it's clear my passion for precious metals, just in terms of what we've done at Wheaton Precious Metals and my whole focus on trying to build the best precious metals company out there from an investing perspective, with the risk profiles being very low, fixed costs, and of course the opportunity, pulling in the growth, the potential of the assets. I would argue the highest quality portfolio of assets. But I will say that by having the honor of being a longtime member of the World Gold Council, but also standing in as chair and working with you over the last while, it has really satisfied or continued to satisfy my passion for the precious metals space. And I think in today's world, there's probably not been a time more demanding of having strong precious metals market that has accessibility, that has trust and fungibility and provenance, clear provenance behind it, all of which weave together to deliver gold into the 21st century. And so the progress that you are making, that we are making, I guess, at the World Gold Council, but definitely you and your team are doing some fantastic things there. Pretty exciting times for the gold industry as a whole. And so I'd like to thank you for taking the time to interview me, and I hope you enjoyed my questions on you too.
Likewise. Thank you very much, Randy. It's a privilege to work with you. And yes, we are doing some great stuff. I want people to know it's very important.
Both at the World Gold Council and at Wheaton Precious Metals. Thanks, David.
You.
Cheers.
Bye.